All right, cool, awesome. Yes. Yeah. What kind of introduction? Oh yeah. So my name's Groovy Kaiju. My real name is Aaron Turner. I'm a normal person. What do I do? I make a lot of music in my free time. I think music's a lot of fun. I do a lot of skateboarding. My day job, I do a lot of programming. I'm also a programmer. And yeah, I do some. Oh, I play video games sometimes. I play a lot of Rocket League. Play a lot of Smash Brothers. I play. There's another game I play. I play one of those games. I play a lot of skateboarding games. I don't know. I'm so chilling. I'm just big chilling. Yeah.
Waiting for you. You know, they want to hear some of that funky shit.
Yeah.
Some of that future funk.
Yeah, I play Skate 3.
That real aesthetic shit.
Yeah. I play Skate 3. I've mostly been playing Skater XL. It's the newest one that came out. It's like an indie studio down in Long Beach. And yeah. So fun. Yeah. Also, I know we gotta fix it.
Let's see.
So they can hear the music, but they can't hear you.
Groovy.
It's all good.
The music in the background is groovy. I love it.
Oh, nice.
It's totally cool,
Yeah.
Monica. I'm having so much fun. Dance so good. Okay. So do you get inspiration from the video games that you play?
Oh yeah. So just to restate the question in case they can't hear you, the question was, do I get inspiration from the music or the video games I play? And honestly, the type I was thinking about this the other day. Oh, they can hear.
Yeah,
now,
we can hear her. Good.
Yes, nice. So really, when it comes to inspiration, I don't get inspiration from a specific source. I get it from everything. I know it's weird to say, but so like I can get inspiration from like dogs barking. I can get inspiration from walking down the street a certain way. Get inspiration from like skateboarding, just anything that makes a noise. I can pretty much get inspiration from it. And to answer that, yes, totally. Like one thing I've been wanting to do, like for example, I've been throwing a lot of Kirby sounds into my songs and stuff, just because I like Kirby's. I think they sound happy, so I just throw them in there. But also just some of like the upbeatness, and I've been learning some of the piano. I've been learning piano in general, and to see how the songs kind of like are laid out on keys gives me ideas of like, okay, this is why this sounds the way it does. And yeah, so yes, video games do inspire me, but so does everything else in the world.
Yeah. Do your friends inspire you?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I live with DS Dude now, so that's been a huge inspiration. We've already had so many good music discussions just from like living together. Like we were talking about all kinds of stuff, like Spotify, how Spotify treats their artists, to like where Vaporwave is and where it's going, and you know, stuff like that, and what constitutes popular music and why is music popular and things like that. From that, what else? Another big inspiration of mine is my old college roommate, NetNavi. I taught them how to make beats right before I moved out and went off to like go work at Google and stuff. And they've been a huge inspiration on me because I taught them everything I knew, and then like we kind of like just went on our own separate paths making music. And now when we collab, I'm like, dude, like I would have never thought of doing that. You're a genius. But it's like cool because you got to catch up to like, I guess, my quality of music, really, because I taught them everything I knew. So they like skipped all of the bad music making and straight to making good music. And then to see them making like super dope stuff. Like for example, one thing is one of the things they taught me that they like to do is that they won't make every, like, I guess maybe 4 bars or section, what do you want to call it, they make sure every one has a slightly different thing, so it's still repetitive and your brain still likes the fact that it's something familiar, but they throw in something really tiny just to like throw it off a little bit, which gives you the goosebumps and stuff when you listen to music where you're not expecting things. So I was like, that's a really smart idea that you did that. That's something I wouldn't have done. I'm just like, yo, copy paste, let's just keep it going, I'm grooving. You know what I mean? But they like to switch it up at all times, so that's a huge inspiration. I could sit here all day naming awesome friends that inspire me.
That's awesome.
Depends how much you want me to, how deep.
You can go as deep as you want about that. Like,
all right,
right ahead.
Dope. Another friend that comes immediately to mind is my buddy Corey. I actually got them into Vaporwave back in the day because they got an Android phone. And they were like, dude, I don't have a computer. Can you just throw music on here? And I gave him Hit Vibes, and he was like, yo, what the fuck is this? And now he's like a huge George Clan fan. I never even talked to him about George Clan, but he just
really?
got so deep into Vaporwave through that one album I gave him on his phone, because I was listening to St. Pepsi at the time, that he just like went deep, and now he's in a whole different part of Vaporwave that I normally listen to.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
and he inspires me too, because he'll send me like little Vaporwave type stuff. And I'm like, oh dude, I didn't know about that. Like, you know, been on their own YouTube Vaporwave rabbit hole, so they'll send me Vaporwave stuff all the time that like inspires me and stuff like that. And we skate a lot together, so we have that same joke humor going on, so like we like to tell the same jokes, so that like sometimes
awesome.
we'll translate. In fact, he inspires me so much, I threw him in my I had a song that came on my newest album called For My First Love. It's a song about skateboarding, essentially, like my first thing that I fell in love with. And the last clip is him going like, oh shit, did you fucking land that? And it's like my buddy Corey, because like we both fell into skateboarding and Vaporwave together. And then one last friend, Olive Rosewood. Y'all are all so awesome. It's like every time I go in there, I feel like I come out a better musician every time, even just from us bullshitting in voice chat at like 2 a.m.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah,
shout out
I love
Rosewood, yeah.
Rosewood. Let's get more art. I feel like I mention Rosewood in every podcast because I'm part of Rosewood, and Rosewood rocks.
Yeah.
Our community is beautiful. Everyone is so nice and talented, and yeah. I feel your friend in that, like, you just sent him that like album or song from Hit Vibes, or the album?
The whole album. Like they were just like, throw good music on my phone, and I was like, cool. And I just, one of the albums happened to be Hit Vibes, and they were scrolling through it, and they were like, what is this? So yeah.
Yeah, so like I experienced that with like going to econ. Like I had learned about George Clanton and Lindsay Way prior, but the minute after experiencing econ, I just was like, all right, this is great.
Yeah.
And I've researched everybody. I started like watching YouTube videos about Vaporwave and all that, because I'm like, this is awesome. I want to hear more music and see them live again. So I experienced that. That's awesome. Yeah, my friends inspire me too. I love that. So I'm like, what is my brain like? Let's go.
Yeah, no worries.
So you made a video that kind of went viral. It has like 1 million views. It's a lo-fi beats, and you made the music, right, for that? It's like on the...
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and what is the YouTube channel called again?
It's the AMP developer channel.
Yeah.
It's like a JavaScript framework I used to work on.
That's so cool.
So, yeah, if you want. So the story behind it is pretty much I was working at Google at this, on this JavaScript framework called AMP. And you probably used it. Like I can almost guarantee you've used it before. If you ever like Googled anything news related on the web, it probably is running through AMP, or even e-commerce sometimes will. So it was this really big JavaScript framework that like a lot of people used. So after I left that team, maybe about 6 months later, one of my friends on the team was like, hey, I have a friend that wants to use your lo-fi hip hop stuff, which goes by Visceral, like your lo-fi hip hop stuff for like their video. And I was like, okay, maybe she wants to make like a hiking vlog or something. So I was kind of like, replying like every other day, taking my sweet time, like, oh, yeah, cool, whatever, that's cool, just let them know they can use it, it's all good. And they're like, no, like you should probably talk to them first. And I was like, all right, cool, yeah, sure, I'll talk to them. And then I got an email from Google Marketing like, hey, like we're Google Marketing, we have this marketing idea for quarantine where we want to make a lo-fi hip-hop mix that's been kind of trending lately. Can you do that for us? And I was like, Google Marketing? I was like, hold up. Hold up. Let me, yeah, you can, but I want money for it. This is Google Marketing. I know what Google dollars are like. They're like dollars, except a lot of them. You know what I mean? So I hit up like 4 of my homies, like, yo, I think I got this deal, dude. Like, just send me some beats. If you clear the sample on them or it's self-produced, just send them over. I'll throw them in there. Fuck, because I know you guys all make good music. And they're like, yeah, sure. So they just like passed it along. And then I worked with Google Marketing. We made the video, the mix. They approved all the songs. We like signed a license, and we all got like I split up the payment between all of us artists. And then it went up. Maybe got about like 20,000 plays in the first couple days, and I was like, that did really good. You know, like that's insane for just a random JavaScript framework. Because if you think about it, there's only so many. Yeah, it's pretty good. Like for the first couple days, and there's not that many programmers in the world. Like there's a big job scarcity for like developers, specifically in that realm. So I was like, 20,000, that's really impressive. And then just, maybe a couple months go by, and then one day the marketing person was like, hey, we're almost at 1 million. And I was like, we're almost at 1 million? What? And then I guess just like maybe after it's been on YouTube for about 4 months, just the YouTube algorithm was like, you know what? This is the one. And just started sending it to everyone. Like if you looked up Photoshop tutorials, it was like, hey, if you like lo-fi hip hop, you should listen to this mix. And it just started recommending it to everyone, and now it's almost at 2 million, I think. So
2 million.
So yeah.
The other day I was like, I looked at it, and I was like at 1 million, and now it's like 2 million. Holy shit!
Yeah.
That's no fucking joke. Like that's amazing, and you involved your friends in that. That's like so sick.
Yeah. So
Groovy
honestly, that's one thing.
Jew.
Kaiju.
Yeah, he's a god.
Yeah. No, thanks. But yeah, that's one thing is that I was like, I could just do it all myself because I had enough sample-free material, and I could have like cleared enough samples to just make the mix entirely me. But I thought, one, it would be better if it wasn't just me, because then there's more musical opinion on it. But then two, I had a lot of friends of mine that have been huge inspirations on me that I was like, they should also get a piece of this pie because they've inspired me enough, or they've been such a big part of my musical journey that I would love to bring them up with me. And that's exactly what happened. And it's been great. It's been super stoked. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so fucking nice of you to think of them, like yeah. It's not only like you guys get money from the video, but like you also get like exposure. Like people are probably like wondering, who are these people? Like, I love this music. Like over 2 million views. I mean, that means they like it and they listen to it, and that's so sick. Exactly. And wow, that's amazing. And you do make a fucking amazing music, so you deserve that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I love your music. I especially love Senorita.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you like it. So
Senorita, I love.
Yeah, it was one of those songs where you like chop up the sample and you're like, oh yeah, this is it. This is already done. Like
it's fun.
Yeah, like I have pretty much whenever I make music for me, like making a genre is just finding out the formula, and then once you figure out like your formula for it, then it's like you pretty much just apply your style on top of the sample at that point.
Yes.
So I have like a 13 list, like to-do list for every song I make for Groovy Kaiju. So after I like was on step 3, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna sound amazing by the time I hit 13. You know what I mean? But what I'm stoked on it is that the intro actually. So Still Groovy was the first completely sample cleared album I've ever made, because TrackLib, there's this new service that lets you clear samples, so on and so forth. So from that, I was like, normally I would just like pull anime clips from different shows and stuff, but I was like, let me like make it legit all the way through. So from that, I was like, I have all these old Snapchats I downloaded. Let me go look through those. So the little intro will be going like, ooh, you feeling these, huh? It's from from me. My roommate was cooking ribs on 4th of July, and I like made a Snapchat going like, "Oh yeah, you making ribs," but like I didn't say the word ribs, so it just worked out. And then I threw like this old Snapchat from like 2015 that I had backed up for some reason on top of the song, and it just worked so perfect. So I was like, cool.
I actually learned of that because you mentioned it on the stream yesterday.
Oh yeah,
like,
oh yeah. Huh?
Yeah, you talked about it being a Snapchat. Which is, I love your stream yesterday, which was on virtual memory. If you guys didn't know, if anyone here wasn't there, it was their like 1 year anniversary, and you did a set, and you included that. It was like you like talked through every song, and that was awesome. I like that. It was like It felt like you were live, even though it was pre-recorded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I love all your sets. You're so energetic, and you're just like.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah,
see
thank
me
you.
probably, but
No,
like
it's fine.
I'm like
feel you, though.
trying. Yeah, you can feel me.
Yeah.
That's
Totally.
awesome. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Big
try to do
Red.
that. Yeah, I try to do that just because whenever I see artists play live, I love to see them like, I don't know, be into their own music, and also I don't know if the right word is stage presence for it, but I like to have good stage presence. So it's like, you're up there like playing a show, and like it's not just the music but also the person. So I try to like include both. Like I know people like the music, or else they wouldn't be there, or at least I hope they're there 'cause they like the music. So then adding like the live, like, hey, this is me, like let's get lit together, because I know you probably feel this way about my songs because you're here, because I feel the same way about them. So I try to like, we're in together. Let's get hype. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, music has a lot to do with feeling, and like that's why I mean that's how I get into music, is through like how do I feel when I listen to it. If I don't get anything, I'm like, well, I'm probably listening to something else. That's how I, go about listening to music. Would you say you make music through feeling? Well, you did say earlier through inspirations, and you get inspired by everything. But the feeling that you get, or when you're making it, does that move you to the
Totally.
to create it? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, totally. It's interesting because I don't know how to describe it, but like for example, there's some songs where I had this old song with this person named Aeon member. And they were like an Australian future funk producer. They like kind of like left their alias around late 2015. But we have a song together called I Remember. And then at the end of it, it goes into this super psychedelic, like just trippy, super weird drums, like type stuff. And the reason why I did that is because I was like, this hasn't been done in future funk at the time, at least to my knowledge. So I was really just feeling like some psychedelic, like type vibes, like kind of that Pink Floyd, like stoner metal type stuff, because that's also something a lot of music I used to listen to. So I was like, let me just throw it in a future funk song, and then people loved it, and I was like, yeah. And then when I sent it to A member too, they were like, oh dude, like that was wild, you did that. I threw some drums, I think it sounds good, and I'm like, this sounds amazing. So yeah.
That's awesome. So would you say that you like love everything you've produced?
Oh no, definitely not.
No.
Some of it's so bad. So like the thing is when I started Groovy Godzilla, it was the first alias of mine that actually like did something on the internet. Like people actually were like, oh, that's pretty cool. So before that, I was just really trying to understand sampling. So I made really bad music for 6 years. It wasn't until for 5 years ish. Like it was just all garbage. And then like once I hit Groovy Godzilla, it was I kind of finally started to understand how to sample and how to work a sample, and then how to layer drums on top of drums and stuff like that. Which is I learned that from another inspiration of mine, my buddy Astro Black. They're a lo-fi hip hop producer. They were the first person I saw that was like, yeah, we'll just throw drums on top of the drums. I'm like, you could do that? And they're like, yeah, like it just sounds good. And I was like, oh shit. Well, so once I started like getting those little tips from friends, and at this time I met a ska band who was really doing music a lot, and they taught me a lot about, I know it's super random, but shout out to Bathala. A lot of them taught me a lot of my mixing techniques early on. So once I had these little snippets of like, oh, I can throw drums on top of pre-existing drums, and oh, I can mix it this way, even though my mixing was completely terrible back then, but it was enough to like finally make something that sounded okay.
Well, practice.
But nowadays,
perfect.
Yeah, exactly, 1000%. But to look back on that stuff, I'm like, oh, I put everything on the master chain and mastered it that way. Like it's just, I committed all the sins that if someone sent me a project today, I'd be like, dude, let's sit down. Like, you got a long way to go, dog. Like, let me just help you. Like, we would have an intervention if I was still making music like that. Does that make sense? So some of it I'm not proud of. Some of it, like, I think nowadays I'd have been like, oh, I would have done this to the sample. I would have definitely changed the song a lot more to make it more my own. I guess maybe my style was still developing at that time. So to look back on it, I'm like, please just don't listen to it. But like people love it, so I just keep it up. And yeah, I'm really conflicted about it. I'm really, but yeah, TLDR.
Would you say that you like regret it, or it's part of the process? Like,
I think it's a part of the process.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. It's part of the process, definitely. That being said, if I can go back and do it again, I would do it in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? If I could remake, that's why I have the remastered album coming out, because I was like, Alex, when I first started talking to Pacific Plaza, they were like, do we want to do a greatest hits? You've been around for so long. You know, I've been listening to your stuff for like ever. We'd love to like just print it out on physical, because it has never been on physical before. And I was like, on one condition, I get to remake the songs because they're so bad. So yeah.
I'm sure that people probably have listened. Have you like you posted it or no?
Not yet. It's supposed to. We were waiting for a Still Groovy vinyl, which we've been working on. I just got the test pressing for that, so I haven't listened to it yet. So yeah, but it's just a white case, and like it's in my record player right now. There's no like labeling on it or anything. But we got the test pressings for it, but when we got it back, they put gaps in between all the songs, and I made Still Groovy specifically to be a vinyl. Like, even though it was going digital, I knew Spotify had gapless playback and stuff, and I was like, gapless playback is so common now. I want to build the entire album like it was going to vinyl, just in case it does. And so one thing they did is they added gaps in between all the songs, and we were like, no. So we had to send it back to the plant, get them to redo it, and then from that, because of that, we were planning on doing like a little bundle, like a Black Friday type thing, where hey, you can get both the remastered cassette and the vinyl for like whatever price we decided on. But since the vinyl is going to be a little delayed, we're thinking like, okay, let's just send the remastered album to the plant, or not the plant, but the cassette people, and they'll give us back the cassettes, and then we'll just run the cassettes around hopefully end of November, I'm hoping. But the whole album's done. Like, it's just sitting on a Google Drive folder. I even sent off some of the files to some friends already so they could like listen to it.
That's
even though it's not on Bandcamp yet. So yeah.
Do you have like any extras? Like, would you ever do a giveaway vinyl?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure I could figure it out. I'd be happy to.
Like
it just depends on how many I get.
Like the test pressing. Like giveaway test pressings.
Ooh, yeah, talk to Alex about that. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, because I won a giveaway with 100p, a test pressing of the Nick Hexum, and that was sick. That would be really cool. Yeah. So if you did that, I would definitely enter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because that's so sick, and it's like, well, Groovy, you're probably gonna become extremely big, and you kind of are. So like, that would be like, you know, a collector's item for people. So that'd be sick. That's awesome that you're making a vinyl, by the way. Like, wow.
Yeah, I still don't believe it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm kind of lagging on like not listening to it yet, just because it's something I've wanted for so long that now that it's here, I'm just like, I keep forgetting it to do like on my to-do list. Like, oh, I have to listen to that vinyl, just because I still can't believe the fact that I have a vinyl of my music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just haven't got it because I can't believe it actually exists, even though it does, and it's sitting right here. So yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, thank you.
That. So, like, what's your favorite project? Would you say it's like Still Groovy, or?
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one. Oh man, I think it might be. I think it's tie for Godzilla Saves Earth and Still Groovy, because what was interesting is that Godzilla Got Busy was my first EP ever. That did really well. It did, like, you know, I just dropped it and people were like, "Oh, this is dope," and just it's always been people loved it. Even though I'm so embarrassed by every single song on there now, people still, like, to this day, it's still getting people downloading it and stuff. So after that one did so well, I started releasing more albums, and they all did good. But it was really me making albums trying to just recreate Godzilla Got Busy. So I was trying to do that same like 130 BPM or whatever high BPM, just trying to recreate Godzilla Got Busy over and over for like 3 albums. And for the most part, it worked. People liked the other albums and stuff, but they never hit like Godzilla Got Busy did. Nowadays, I understand that it's just because that album's been up longer, it just has more of a presence. Because now people, when they think Groovy Godzilla, they think of that original EP cover. So it's just more because, like, you know, it's been around longer, so people are gonna obviously find me through that more often, which I didn't really. Now that I understand that, it's like, oh, duh. But back then I was like, I gotta make another album that drops even harder than Godzilla Got Busy. And Godzilla Saves Earth was the first album that I was like, you know what, fuck it, who cares about that album? I'm over it now. Let me just do something that like I want to do. Like I'm not trying to like be all like EP #1 Groovy Godzilla. I want to be just like whatever I want to do now. And from that, Godzilla Saves Earth was a lot more hip hop influenced. It had a lot more just influences from other things. It wasn't trying to be like as much anime or just city pop. I really like expanded more into other genres. And that's the album that I still listen to out of like all my old stuff. Godzilla Saves Earth is the one that I'm like, oh, this still bangs. You know what I mean? So I'm very proud of that album still. And yeah. And the reason why I say it's tied with Still Groovy is just because Still Groovy, I took a long hiatus in between like Godzilla Saves Earth and Still Groovy because I was focusing more on programming stuff. That being said, I wasn't not making music. I was just doing so many different genres in the meantime. I was focusing more on lo-fi hip-hop. I was focusing more on like I was making future bass and stuff like that. I was just trying all types of different genres. So when I made Still Groovy, I took all that new knowledge I accumulated and like, oh, let's bring it all back to Groovy Godzilla now, or Groovy Kaiju. And then Still Groovy was like, I feel like the mixing, everything on it was like, or I mean, I don't want to talk too highly of it, but I feel like it really came out to be a solid project because I learned so much about other music that I could then bring that back into it. And even when I sent it off to get vinyl mastered, they were like, dude, you're like insanely good at mixing. Like I don't have to do anything to like get this ready for vinyl for the most part. Just add a high pass filter and it's done. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't know I like knew how to mix and master that well. Where someone who was a professional mixing mastering engineer was like, oh yeah, you're like really good at mixing and mastering. And I was like, wait, I am? I self-taught myself this just from like making all these different genres and stuff. So I think it came out to be a solid project in both quality, but also just like I threw in all these personal parts of me into it, like, you know, Snapchat videos I put, like my little brother like winning Fortnite games and like me playing Smash and just all kinds of little parts of myself into that album that I try to make it as me as much as I could. So yeah, that's, I don't know. I hope that explains, like, you know, they're both special albums for different reasons, but they both, I feel like, did something solid. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that you triumphed and you were like, I'm just gonna make like what I want. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've noticed with a lot of artists that I've spoken to, that I was lucky enough to speak to, that they're always trying to be better than what they were before. But it's like, that's like an inner battle, you know? Like, you don't want to fight yourself. You want to just like it's supposed to be fun, and there's a lot of bloodshed, I believe, probably through making an album and making it perfect. But I think like it should make you happy, the end results, and like you shouldn't have that inner battle. You should just be like, this is something I want to produce and I want people to hear and listen to. Totally. Yeah, and I love that. And
thank you. And not to say that the other like albums before the 3 other albums before that I was like, I'm just tired, I don't like those at all. I still do think like, I was trying to like chase this one like idea like over and over. Not to say that it was like a bad thing necessarily, but just more that like once I like kind of like stopped chasing that idea and was like, I'm just gonna make good music. Like pretty much just like I'm just gonna make good music, fuck it. And that's when it started going really good. So yeah.
That's awesome. I have a question. What was your favorite stream and like group of people to work with for like Corona, like during the Corona, this whole thing?
Oh, so like
the URL shows. Like,
Oh yeah. So in terms of like, I think that's a hard one. So I was a part of a lot of streams.
Yeah.
Mostly, so I'm gonna vote. I mean, I'm really biased here, but I'm gonna say Virtual Memory, just because I've been doing it so regularly with like the whole team there that it's like it's just second nature now. I don't even have to like think twice about it. I'm like, cool, let's try to get my set to like All Hell Breaks Loops by like this day. Obble, try to get to by this day, and then it's like, and then I know like they're such a good at their craft that I don't have to worry about anything. I just either drop them a video or like an audio file and they're like, cool, got you. And like we have it so like in like process now. We have a whole, you know, how to process to do this, that it's like I don't even think twice about it. But in terms of like not record label like home team type streams, I want to say Flamingo Fest, just because I got to work with Chief, so that was a blast because Chief is just amazingly good at visuals.
Oh my god.
Indy and I became much closer friends through Flamingo Fest, and just the turnout itself was like amazing. Like I had seen so many like new fans as well as old ones like show up and be like, oh my god, like this is so good. I got to see so many new people that are like, who is this guy? Why have I never heard of? Just so many different people that like either knew me and like kind of like, oh wow, I didn't know he was making new stuff that's like this good, or just so many people like really enjoyed that set that I was like so happy with how it turned out and stuff. And Flamingo Fest I think was just like a moment in the scene for sure. So yeah, I guess the answer would be, I'm sorry, I keep rambling. The answer would probably be virtual memory, whereas non-home base, I guess away team would be Flamingo Fest. Not to like all the other ones have been great too, but yeah.
Flamingo Fest was with my pet flamingo, right?
Yeah.
That was huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was huge. It was a lot. I loved I watched it. I think I got drunk and watched it.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I watched it with DS Dude. We were just in the living room hanging out with the cats all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to discuss your time with the great Daniel?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we've been hanging out. DS Dude, they live in the other room in here. Like, you could knock on the door right now and you would probably hear it. It's been going great. I think, I hope it's going great. In my opinion, it's been going great. Like, we respect each other. We've been, like, just living. It's been a lot of fun. We get to just watch shows together. So we get to, like, coordinate, like, hey, dude, like, don't forget Friday's a show. And I'm like, oh, shit, I would have forgot. Thanks for reminding me. And then we get to watch it together, order pizza together. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're just hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, can't speak for anyone, but it seems like Daniel's a lot happier with you than.
I'm glad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just got
like
the Quest 2, so we've been playing. Yeah, pretty much. But they also got the Quest 2, like the Oculus Quest 2, so we've been playing VR. And it's been funny because they've been like, they're handling the VR motion sickness a lot better than I am. So they're like, yo, man, like, here's some ginger drops, here's some C-bands, like, let's get over that nausea. And I'm like, dude, I didn't know you were so about VR. And they're like, yeah, dude, like, we got to get into it. Let's do it. So I've been trying to, like, get less VR motion sickness to, like, be able to hang out with Daniel in VR. So it's been working out. It's been a lot of fun.
I wish I had a VR headset. Shit's expensive.
It is, yeah. Definitely quite the dive.
Yeah. So, do you have any like funny stories with Daniel?
So far, I don't think so. We've just been living together. What's a good funny story?
The burritos.
I'm trying to think. Oh, the burritos are pretty good. Oh wait, I do have a funny story. I don't know. Maybe it's not as funny. It's interesting either way. But I'm a good cook, I like to think. And then one day I was making salmon, and then Daniel was like, "Oh, dude, you're making salmon?" And I pretty much let him have a piece, and he was like, "This is the best salmon I've ever had in my entire life." I was like, "Hey, let's go!" Awesome. So yeah, I was pretty stoked that my salmon recipe was like. I've never had someone tell me my cooking was the best they had in their life, so I was pretty fucking stoked.
Oh wow! Oh, thank you, Codex. Codex just followed me.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to keep up with this cat. I've been like trying to.
That's fine. So, we're like already 30 minutes in, and we have 2 more hours. I have like a question.
Oh, I could. Yeah, go through. I can go as deep. I can talk about whatever. I'm so chilling.
Perfect, because I want to talk about a visceral, and I messaged you prior, being like, "Can I talk about this?" I'm glad we can, because I before I let you speak, I'm so sorry. I just want to say I listened to a visceral and didn't know it was you, and I was like, "Yo, this is sick music," and I was with Nathan, and he's like, "Yo, that's Groovy Kaiju, right?" I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Really love it. So
yeah, I'm glad. Did you find it through Rosewood, or were you just like listening to beats on Spotify and you're like, who is this guy?
Rosewood.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the Rosewood Spotify playlist. If anyone wants to put
cool.
that in chat, go right ahead.
For sure.
Yeah. I was like, this is awesome, and I would love to like hear about how you created that and like.
Oh yeah. So what's it called? So what's funny is originally, so my first alias ever was a visceral. It had like another name before that. It was like Deep Theta. It was like a MF Doom reference. But I eventually changed the name to a visceral, and it was like the first music I ever made. It was just like beats. And a visceral stands for like, you know, the word visceral vaguely means like inner thoughts and feelings. So I was like, cool, my name is Aaron, so A visceral, and then the other L is for all. So it's like Aaron sharing my inner thoughts, you know, feelings with everyone. So that's how I came up with the name of visceral. I'm pretty stoked on that. That's the one name I'm like, yo, I think I nailed that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty sick name. But I mean, so is Groovy Kaiju. So
yeah,
you nailed both. I love
that.
Oh,
thank you. Yeah. But so yeah, I was just making beats, and a lot of it was like very self-produced. Just, like, it was terrible. It was so bad. It was 4 years of just bad beats, and it was through a visceral I started learning how to sample. And the only album I have up of a visceral that like isn't bad, I still have up, is Nostalgia Infinite. And that one is still like not good, but I mean, like, I actually knew what I was doing for the most part, so if that makes sense. So yeah, I was doing that, and it wasn't just like lo-fi. It was before lo-fi hip-hop was like this huge thing that it is now. It was just like, I listened to a lot of like MF Doom, like Jay Dilla, Jabez and stuff. So it was just me just making beats that like of other producers that I liked. And then so that was just that. I was making beats. And then when I made, so the reason why I kind of went to Groovy Godzilla, because I was listening to like funk a lot and a lot of Vaporwave. So one thing I didn't like is that when artists like, for example, Linkin Park, they had all these dope like rock albums, and they went super electronic, and they were like, we're still Linkin Park. And I'm like, no, this isn't Linkin Park. This is like electronic experiment. So from that, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm glad. So I was like, I'm gonna do this thing where I'm gonna make a different alias for every genre I do, which honestly bit me in the butt, because now I have a lot of people that are like, oh, like, I love Groovy Godzilla, or oh, I love Avisto, but they don't know I'm the same person. So it's like, I have a lot of Groovy Godzilla fans that are like, oh yeah, I love lo-fi hip-hop. And I'm like, I also make lo-fi hip-hop. And they're like, you do? And they're like, that's like, now I have like a split fan base, and I have to maintain multiple SoundCloud accounts. It's very annoying. But I mean, it's cool though, because now people, when they go listen to Visceral, they know it's going to be like this style. And they're going to randomly get like me flipping like Tatsuro Yamashita, like at like 130 BPM. Like, this album really took a strange turn. You know what I mean? So, but
George Clanton actually talked about this. He made Esprit, right? And Mirror Kisses and stuff. And he kind of has changed his sound with like George Clanton. And he's like, if he were to like he's gonna stick with George Clanton. If he's gonna make a song, like an album that's like Esprit, he's just gonna keep it George Clanton, because like he is Esprit. Because I think he probably went through that whole thing, like, like people know different variations of him, but like I totally explained that wrong, but yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Totally. And a lot comes with it too, because for every like brand that you have, it costs more money to maintain. Like, I have to pay like a higher level of DistroKid just so I can have all these different aliases. And it's like really annoying. And like, I have a Bandcamp for labels account, so like I had to make a record label just so I could have multiple aliases, pretty much, even though I don't actually have a label. So it's like, it's weird.
Oh my god.
It's more work than you would think. But I'm like already so deep in it that I'm like, you know what? I'm just keep doing it. I like don't want to have to. I was originally gonna move all of Groovy Godzilla to like a visceral, and just so when I did the name change from Groovy Godzilla, the reason why I did that is because I started working with Alex in Pacific Plaza, and I was like, hey, this Vaporwave thing's actually gonna work out. Godzilla is trademarked. I don't want to I wouldn't want Alex to print a vinyl that says Groovy Godzilla on it, and then Toho hit him up with like a lawsuit saying like, you shouldn't have used our name. And then I feel bad because I'm like, that was my decision to use that name in the first place. It shouldn't be like Alex is the owner of Pacific Plaza, by the way. He shouldn't get in trouble for that. So that's why I changed the name and made sure that it should be fine to my knowledge. So when I did the name change, it was going to be like, you know what? I'll just rename Groovy Godzilla to A Visceral and just throw all my stuff on that SoundCloud and just move everything over there saying, hey, look, I've been this same person. Just if you want to, I don't know, just sorry, I'm posting like all types of different genres now. You get what you get.
And you don't get upset.
Yeah, but then the reason why I didn't do that is because I realized when I started Groovy Godzilla, I was like, you know, it'd be really cool is if I had like people go, whoa, I didn't know you were both a Visceral and Groovy Godzilla. That'd be so funny. And then now I'm like, that was the dumbest thing I'd ever done. It's like the dumbest like joke that like really affected my musical like promotion. So it was more for a joke that I kept them separate. And then I realized, oh, I like made it hard to figure out. So then I started making it a lot easier. And people were like, oh, dude, you're both people. And I'm like, oh my God. So I didn't change it because after I experimented with letting people know that I was both people, they were like, oh yeah, I found you through your Groovy Godzilla stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, it all worked out in the end.
That's awesome that it all worked out.
That was a long story, my bad.
No, you can go for, we have 2 hours. Now,
yeah.
Little more than 1 more hour. But yeah, we have a lot of time, and I want to know everything about you, Groovy. And I'm sure everyone at home watching, I'm like, this is such a big thing. This is your time to shine.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. This is awesome, and like, you're awesome. Great.
Yeah, thank you.
So, you have a song called Static Shock, and you're dressed as Static Shock.
I do. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is. What's up with that? So, the reason why I chose the name Static Shock for that song is because that was actually inspired by when I was working at AMP. I got to travel a lot for work, so we were like trying to promote the framework. And one thing that's this is the most random thing to express on my music or on a music podcast, but is I didn't realize that like, in other countries, like in America, it's like, oh, I learned that through the internet. Cool, dope. I'm gonna go buy it, or like I'm gonna make whatever. I'm gonna buy that album or whatever. But in a lot of other countries, like they will not believe what you're saying at all unless you go to them in person, shake their hand, and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. They're like, oh, cool, dope. I'll sign up for it. And it's like, I don't know. It's a very like cultural thing. But from that, like our framework I worked on, like everything was available online. Like you could have learned anything you wanted to do online, but it wasn't until we go in person, shake hands with the people that they were like, oh, dude, yeah, I'll go check it out tomorrow. And they go check it out. And like, you know what I mean? Like, and they'll be like, oh, I had this question. It's like, yeah, it was in the docs. You could have just read it. And they're like, yo, dude, but you're down here now. I'm like, thank you. It's like, oh, okay. But TLDR is that from that, I got to go to South Africa. And that was just probably one of the most amazing trips of my life. South Africa is so cool.
Did you surf?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was just hanging out. It was cool. So there was this one dude from like Dublin. He was like our tour guide kind of. He also worked at Google. He's like specialized in like partner relationships in Africa and the Middle East. And he was just showing us around South Africa. He was like, yeah, you know, my wife is like Nigerian. So like, I mean, South Africa's a big continent, but like, he just happened to also go to South Africa a lot and was like, yeah, you know, I'm like used to Africa and stuff, was just showing us around. And it was just us hanging out with a super cool like Irish dude, and he was just showing us around South Africa. Got to eat like all these amazing like dockside Google places. It was like, what the heck is going on? Anyways, I got to go to Soweto, which is like where Trevor Noah, and it's like a really famous like very poor area of like Johannesburg in South Africa. And there's a lot of like huge amounts of like South African culture come from Soweto, and like Nelson Mandela was born there and grew up there and stuff like that. A lot of these big like, you know, South African heroes almost are from there. So the intro was like just people, like some kids speaking like South African. There was like I think 13 different languages, so I wouldn't be able to tell you which one they're speaking. But my manager at the time took a video of these kids like, you know, hanging out, and they were talking to us, and they were just kids, you know, messing around with his camera and stuff. So they sent me the video, so I took the audio from that and made that the intro of like these kids just like playing in South Africa. So the reason why I named it Static Shock was just, you know, African American type culture and stuff. But also the song has like, it does electric in the song a bunch, and I think it's like the one English word they say. And I was like, hey, like Africa, electric, Static Shock, fuck it. I named the song that. So yeah.
Wow.
And I guess that's even more trippy too, because like I was saying, Soweto was like from a lot of South African heroes, and then you got Static Shock, who's like an African hero. So I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think of that till just now. It's all serendipitous. Yeah.
Yeah, serendipitous. That's a nice word. That's so cool. I like you just so first a TikTok, and you take things from your life and you put it in your music, and that's so cool. Like you just take sounds from real life. I think that's so cool.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. One thing my buddy told me recently that was like interesting that I didn't realize I was doing, but I was trying to make like pretty much like 3-6 Mafia type like trap beats essentially, and then even when I was making them, my buddy was like, dude, like it's funny because I hear you trying to make trap beats and you're doing a good job, but it's still so you, like it sounds like you made this even though it's a completely different style. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I could just, someone showed me this, I'm like, oh, Aaron made that, just like off top, like just easy to tell. So I was like, oh, I didn't know I made music that was very me. And that's why, I kind of mentioned the whole So Groovy thing. I just dug into that as much as I could. I was like, oh, if my music is expressing myself, let me just go all in and just make it as much as I can about like putting myself in it, because I'm already doing it anyway, so might as well lean into it. And then, you got like stuff like that where it's like African kids hanging out at the beginning of songs and stuff.
That's awesome.
Because I like was there. So yeah.
You basically like, I mean, you just like, you saved a memory and you made it into art.
Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. That's awesome. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that. I love that story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, totally.
I'm glad I asked you about Static Shock.
Yeah.
Would you say Static Shock is a hero of yours? Like the character,
Yeah, I think so. I think what's nice about it, I mean, this is kind of like getting deep, but I feel like there's a lot of stereotypes and stuff around like, you kind of, even though it's like the working class young African American who, like, his whole story is that like he was about to get some bad things, but then through like a twist of fate, he kind of became like this very modern hero of like his community and stuff. And I think a lot of people kind of fall into that like wrong path. And maybe it's just a really enduring story every time they tell it, but like the one kid that was supposed to like go down the wrong path who like miraculously gets around it, it's something I relate to a lot. So yeah, I guess I would say I definitely would. Plus the theme song is so cool. The theme song of Static Shock is so dope. So yeah. I gotta learn how to make music like that.
Well, you make good.
Get Bow Wow on my next.
Bow Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. I mean, Bow Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny. I literally heard about Bow Wow the other day. I was watching this YouTube video about how he faked being on a private jet, and he was actually like on. Yeah. I mean, Bow Wow is, he could use you actually.
Yeah. Well, I'd be flattered. Bow Wow, if you hear this, dude, let's collab. I'm about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry for if what I was saying. He has nothing to do with what I said. So if you want to work with him, he respects you.
Yeah. Hit a Bow Wow. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Talking about collabs. You announced on Virtual Memory you were collabing with Vaporwave, and that fucking song.
Yeah, I'm so hyped on it.
I'm hitting my desk, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was so stoked on that. Yeah, so Vaporwave is one of my like favorite artists in the scene right now. Just because, like, I mentioned before, I took a long break between making my last album, and honestly, after I made Godzilla Saves Earth, I kind of hit the point where I was like, I think Future Funk is kind of, I did everything I wanted to with it. Not that I was like, oh, it's over, I'm dead, but just more like I expressed a lot of the ideas I wanted to. I brought a lot of hip hop themes to it. I brought different cultures. At the beginning, it was all city pop for the most part. But I would like to at least maybe claim, if no one will judge me for it, I might be wrong, but people like George Benson, a lot of like those dollar bin records, I feel like I brought that to Future Funk because I was going to Amoeba, getting dollar bin records. I was like, who's George Benson? This guy is dope. Let's sample him. And then now George Benson is like a future funk staple because like on a Me and Thoughts had a song that went really big off of a George Benson flip. And one of the things I'm stoked on to this day is that if you look up like how to make future funk, there's this like meme video on how to make future funk that uses the same sample and this collab I did with Thoughts back in the day. So I'm like, yes, we brought George Benson into future funk. Yes,
No way.
I'll find it after before we. But it's a hella funny video, so I'll find it. And it's the same song we did.
You should post that in Rosewood for me. I want to see it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like just send it.
And yeah, and then even songs like I did with Aeon member that were like French disco. Like I don't feel like I've heard any French disco song until I was like, hey, Aeon member, you want to like try French disco? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then that's another song on mine that did really well. I think it has about like 500,000 plays right now. But I think it's like what I forgot the name of it. But if you look up like Groovy Godzilla, it's the Pokemon one. Du Bois made it, I think. But shit, I forgot what we were talking about.
Pokemon.
Collabs. We're talking about collabs with Tup. Yeah.
CompuServe just said, wait, who's Tupperwave?
Oh. Vaporwave is like, I mean, I know you're joking, but just in case anyone doesn't know, he's like an amazing vapor funk, vaporwave, future funk artist out of I think Brisbane in Australia, and like they are just amazing. They recently announced they're gonna be slowing down on music, so hopefully they'll come back around once they, kind of sort some things out. And I wish them all the best with that.
That was what was so surprising about your collab to me, at least, was the fact that he just like, I'm gonna take a break, but then you came out being like, listen to our fucking song, me and Tupperwave. I'm like, Tupperwave!
Yeah.
He made music again! Whoa!
Yeah. So what was cool about that is I guess just to like wrap into that. So after like 2016ish, I was kind of like, okay, I'm done. I just even stopped listening to as much future funk because I was like, I feel like Mo Shop, Nani Dato, those dudes like made songs that like really stuck with me, and I was like, cool. And St. Pepsi and them slowed down, so I was just listening to like for 4 years, like all of my favorite future funk for that long. And then when I heard Tupperwave for the first time, I was like, oh, I thought we were done. I guess not, because Tupperwave came out and just fucking killed it. And I was like, dude, whoa.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just was like instantly like a super Tupperwave fan, like on day one. This first song I heard, I was like, yep, I gotta start doing this again.
Yeah,
Tupperwave showed me it's not done.
Yeah,
so,
I had the honor of meeting him once in a group chat
whoa,
on Business Casual
awesome.
Chat. And he was super nice. Thank you, D Wilson 8888 for following. But he was super nice, and I didn't know who he was. Actually, I joined. I knew who Christ was, so I joined Business Casual because of Christ. And then that day, I joined the Discord. There was Tupperwave in the chat. There was Mir in the chat. I believe there was a few other people that were in the chat that I was like, I have no idea who you guys are. And then I was like, yo, Tupperwave, so like, cool. What's, like, send me your music. I had no idea who he was.
That's funny.
And, like, ever since then, I'm like, oh, shit, he's pretty good. He makes good music.
Yeah.
And
he's amazing.
Yeah, and he's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, from that, too, just after I was like, Tupperwave, your stuff is so good. I love you, man. He was like, oh, dude, yeah, for sure. And then, like, he had heard of me before and was like, I heard his old stuff. But then I started releasing new stuff. And then I just remember one day, like, going through my SoundCloud, and it was like, Tupperwave, like, every single song you've released in the past, like, 4 months. And I'm like, hey, Tup, you listen to my stuff? He's like, oh, yeah, dude, I've been fucking loving it. I was like, oh, dude, no way. So we became, like, equally as big fans. And I even noticed that, like, I would go to a lot of the shows and I wouldn't see Tup, but whenever I played Tup, would be like, yo, what's up, man? And I'm like, yo, Tup, you came for me? I'm like, no way, I love you, dog. So I think we became equally as big fans, and I didn't think Daydream Deluxe did like top 10 future funk albums so far of like 2020, and like a few months ago, and Tup was like the top comment that was like, Groovy Kaiju he's just so fucking groovy. Like that's all he had to say was like, I love this stuff. He's just so groovy. So after Flamingo Fest, someone was like, Tup and St. Pepsi, and Tup was like, hell yeah, and St. Pepsi was like, yeah, I'm down. And then I was like, dude, Tup, you're gonna collab with St. Pepsi, that's so cool. And he was like, yeah, fuck yeah, and we need to collab too. And I was like, oh, Tup. So then I was super hyped, and I started sending him some samples. And then like the first 3 I sent him, we were like, oh, these are kind of good. But then the one like the don't like once I found that one, I was like, yo, Tup, I think those other 3 I sent you, fuck those. Listen to this. And he was like, oh yeah, this is it. So I like chopped it up, made it. And the thing is, I'm stoked on is I got to clear the sample on that one as well. So it's gonna be completely cleared. We can like throw it on the radio. We can do whatever we want with it. So I chopped it up in like among all the sample guidelines and stuff like that. And then I was like, cool, sent it over, added some drums. I was like, dope. And then I took his drums, added a little bit more hip-hoppy type vibes to it, just threw myself a little bit more on it, added some chops. And then Tup, he doesn't like doing as many chops, so he took some of my chops out, added that slowdown, that whole like, you know, the change up. And I was kind of like, oh, that change up is interesting. I originally was like, let me make it like Vapor Trap maybe. And I tried and I was like, no, this sounds bad. I should just go back to what Tup was doing. Because like, you know, he's tough. I was like, he knows what he's doing. So he kind of had to switch up a little bit longer. So I shortened it a little bit, but I also made it a little bit more groovy in terms of like, I mean, that sounds a little like weird. Like, I made it more groovy in like the name. That's funny. But pretty much I like did the drum work a little different than the way he had it. And I changed the way it sped up, where like originally it like sped up just at a straight line. So it was just like as it was going, it would get faster. But I made it so that it stays the same BPM. So like when the switch up starts, you're kind of like, okay, I'm bouncing to it. It doesn't start speeding up until it does that like dun 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 dun. So that way, like it speeds up when like the switch up starts to switch into a faster mode almost. But at TLDR, I made it switches up at a better pace, or the BPM comes back to normal at a better pace. That's really technical for like no reason. But TLDR is that after we did that, sent back over the top, I was like, can I master it? And he was like, yeah, I think so. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna master it by tonight because I'm gonna play it at the next virtual memory start 1 year. And he was like, hell yeah, dog. And I was like, cool. And he was like, can I show up? And I was like, it's at this time. He was like, that'll be like noon for me. And I was like, let's go. And then he showed up. And then I saw him, he dropped in the chat, like said hi to people, and just went silent because, you know, I said in the beginning, I got a surprise for you. I was like, all right, cool. Just gonna lay back in the chat and not say anything. And when I mentioned his name, he was like, yo, what up, everybody? I'm in chat. And everyone was like, oh, what? And it was like the perfect moment. And then it was dope. So yeah, the collab came together. I'm super stoked on it. And it's another thing too, where I think it's like, you know, I think Data Girl mentioned it during the song that it's very much like a new jack funk, not like your stereotypical like city pop or like, you know, maybe like Rick Jamesy type funk stuff that you would, or maybe even like George Benson type disco funk. It is very much that like older, like maybe like late 80s, like, you know, you go, I can imagine the movie in my head, but I can't express it in words. But it's a different type of funk. It's a lot more bassy. But then we were able to, you know, add a lot of more lighter elements to it. So a lot of, you don't hear that in the live version that I played, but Tup added a ton of risers, a ton of like little sparkles in it and stuff. It sounds a lot more dreamy and a lot more future funky, even though the bass line is like not traditional to future funk at all. So yeah, I think it came together, dude. And shout out Data Girl. I saw aggro with the Data Girl emote. Yeah.
I definitely think it all came together. It sounded fucking awesome, and you know, we all experienced it together too. We were in that Rambly thing, which was awesome. Ooh, Will's here.
Oh, nice.
Sodakiss is here. I feel like that's Zico, but I'm not sure, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Another thing is, if I could, another thing about the song.
You go on.
For sure. The intro, I'm so hyped on the intro.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually, another funny story I have with Daniel is I'm really into cars, but not like, oh, I like the new Tesla Lamborghini. Blah, blah, blah. I like working on cars. So I'm like really into old 90s Japanese cars. Yeah, like, you know, the car commercials I play sometimes in shows, like the 80s Hondas. I have an 89 Honda. Like, I own the cars they show in those Vaporwave car commercials. Like, I own one of them. And then I have a 96 Integra, and it's like this like super, it's like, it revs up to like 9,000 RPM. So when I was driving with my mom, she was, why are you going so fast? I'm like, Mom, I'm going 20 miles per hour. The car just sounds like it's going way faster than it should be. Because it can, I mean, you can go to like 60 miles per hour in second gear, but it's all car stuff. TLDR, I have a new buddy that's like very much like a racer, which is like the inappropriate term, but like they like getting old Japanese cars and like making them go fast, even and like just beating them up pretty much. So I was like, I've learned A little bit, yeah. But the thing is, I learned a lot about car maintenance from one friend that was very much like, let's get you the most reliable car, yada yada yada. You know, we'll make sure that it like runs for as long as it can. And it's like cool, but you know, I kind of hit the point where I'm like, I understand how to maintain a car very well. The only last thing to learn about cars is like how to make them go really fast. So I have a new friend that's very much like, yo man, we'll like drop a turbo, pull out the back seats, we'll just make the car engine turbo, that's it. And this car is ridiculous. So I have from him I got a 96 Integra GSR, and from that I've just been having a lot of fun like driving my car just really fast for no reason, which is like not good, but it's fun, you know what I mean? So my funny story with my roommate DS dude is that I was like, all right man, get to show you my Integra for the first time, I'm so excited. I have like the Dragon Ball shift knob, got like my big ass sub in the back that's like the entire trunk is a sub. So I was like, here we go. I like just immediately burnt out, and I burned out from first gear all the way to second gear, and then it wasn't until third gear that my wheels were finally could catch the ground because they were just moving so fucking fast. They couldn't just grip the street. And DSD was just like, what the fuck is going on, dude? So TLDR,
I could just imagine his face.
Yeah, and then he just started coughing from all like the tire burning rubber smell. Oh man, it was so much fun. And he was like, okay, yeah, I get what you mean. And I have another buddy that studied like engine engineering, like mechanical engineering out in Egypt. And then when I drove around in that car, he was like, what engine's in this car? And I was like, oh yeah, you haven't seen this car yet. I had to explain to him how the engine works. But that's a long way just to say the intro for the song is just pretty much about like performance car culture in Southern California. So it's like a news report of like, you know, a bunch of people like street racing and stuff like that. It sounds very cool. And then I'm stoked because, you know, Future Funk kind of has that like anime girl type vibe. Oh, yeah. So what I ended up finding was a news report about a girl street racing crew out in San Diego. And she explains her car. And she happened to have a 94 Integra, which is the same generation of the car I actually have. And I was like, yo, I'm going to drop this girl talking about her Integra because I have an Integra. And like, you know, Future Funk has a whole like girl type, like, oh, you know, like this is. So I was like, boom, put that in there. The song came out dope. So I'm stoked. So yeah. And Tup was like, yo, this is tight.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Would you say you want to marry that girl?
I don't even know her. Maybe she's not a nice person. Maybe she's just really into cars. We have the same taste in cars, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's one point towards her.
I thought maybe that would be like that, like one true love, just because you have the same car.
Well, I mean, it was the news report was from the 90s, so I don't know how old she is now.
Oh.
Yeah. Like there's all types of. There's all types of.
She's probably a little too old for you, or unless you like that. I'm just kidding.
I mean, you know. Yeah, I was messing around too. But yeah. But I mean, like, yeah. Same car, definitely. It's a point towards her, that's for sure. That's funny.
Ooh,
but yeah.
Aggro.
That's the Tup collab.
Yeah, I used to have this. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's what's up, Aggro. That's so cool.
I don't know anything about cars, so I can't even like. I don't have the image of your cars in my head. I'm like.
Yeah. So pretty much, Aggro and I had a sub so big that like pretty much what's. If you're ever in Long Beach and someone's driving around and you can hear like Data Girl blasting at like ridiculously loud with like bass that like is just shaking windows, oh, that's me. Like you just, oh, that's Aaron. So yeah, like the bass, the sub in my car is so insane that like whenever I'm like sitting at a red light, I can see my like reverse mirror just like shaking violently because like there's so much bass in the car.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I wish I knew more.
You can feel it in your chest.
Yeah. Oh, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
That's I love when like that feeling where you're listening to music and it like, or like when you're at a concert and the fucking speakers make your heart like pound.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so nice.
You're like, ooh, I got the tingles. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
If anyone in chat wants to ask any questions, like feel free.
Oh yeah. I need to watch the chat more. I've been neglecting it. I can scroll back. I saw a few.
I'll read them. Oh, you saw a few questions?
Yeah, but I might have glanced over it, but then I was Yeah, but just go for it. If I see one, I'll state it out.
Yeah, we'll just keep talking. I'm just putting that out there if anyone wants to.
All right, Isaac, young Shiro asks, have Daniel and I farted in the same room yet? Not that I know of. Or DS Dude and I.
Oh my god. I don't know if
Just
I'd
a little
ever,
English
like,
medium?
if I had a roommate, like, I haven't experienced having a roommate to live at home, but if I had one, I probably would hold in my farts around them. I don't know, embarrassment. But I think it's different for guys.
Yeah, I think it's respectful. I mean, sometimes, you know, like, you gotta let it go, but, you know, if it's not inconvenient, or you don't have to, like, get up. Like, if you were just, like, standing up already, like, just doing it right there, it's like, especially if you're, like, standing next to each other, like, dog, you could have, like, walked 5 feet, did it, and then, like, let it air out, and then come back over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, if you're just chilling, and it comes out, like, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, true. It's nothing to be
Or,
embarrassed
like,
about if it just comes out.
Yeah,
we all
totally.
fart. We all poop and pee.
Oh, yeah,
This is
exactly.
a good question, yes. Shiro City asks, any other genres you want to break into?
Oh, that's a hard one. Yeah, actually, there's a couple, but I'm maybe a little embarrassed by it. So one of them is I've been working on a Visceral album, which is like almost done. I'm super stoked on it. And actually, I just released a new single, Alone at Sunset, and I'm so hyped because it got picked up by a lot of different Spotify playlists. They're all user-generated ones, not the editorial, like, big ones, but, like, some pretty solid ones that I'm like, that's going to be nice. So, but one of the songs on there, I was like, I'm going to make a song where I'm, like, singing on it, and I, like, sent it to a few friends, and they're like, oh, dude, this sounds like really good. Who'd you get to sing on it? I'm like, oh, that's me. And they're like, oh, what the heck? You could sing? And I was like, I guess so. I sent it as a joke, as like, oh, look at me, I'm D'Angelo. And like, like, yeah, that actually sounded kind of good. So I think I might release a few R&B songs or something. And then another genre I want to break into is my buddy. He makes a lot of indie rock. I really like Mac DeMarco and Boy Pablo and stuff like that. And what's his name? Oh, Cosmo Pike. Me and Cosmo Pike are like doppelgangers, I like to think. He's a dude from London. He's like a light-skinned black dude with like dreadlocks. So like I've actually driven to places when Cosmo Pike was like, you know, had like his really good moment in terms of like trendiness. Once I went to McDonald's and they were like, "Are you Cosmo Pike?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not Cosmo Pike." My bad. Like I got mistaken for them a couple times.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
wow.
for real. They were like, "Oh my god, you look just like Cosmo Pike." And I was like, "Oh yeah."
You could just,
So I like. Oh, go for it. My bad.
no, you could just like be like, I am him, and take
Yeah, I
pictures,
should try to-
like troll.
I don't have the
people.
British accent. If I had the
Really?
British
You
accent,
can't
I
even
could pull it
try?
off. No, it's terrible.
Really?
I just laugh at the means we posted like in Rosewood, but I can't do it.
I love doing
But,
British accent. But yes, go on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, so I'd want to break in maybe to that because my old college roommate, Net Navi, they've been making a lot of indie rock, like whatever hipster rock you want to call it. They've been making a lot of that, and we're supposed to. I want to sing on one of his songs. It's been like sitting on my hard drive to sing on that song. So maybe break into that, just because I listened to it so much, and I think that would be cool. And then I do a lot of feature bass as well. I forgot to mention that, but it's under the name Marquise Turner, and the alias, it started off as just like I'm all music that I self-produce, no samples at all. But now that like I'm clearing samples and stuff, I don't really care about that as much. And so the feature-based stuff was like a ton of micro samples, but like mostly self-produced by me. And I have one song on there that did really well called Miata, and it's another just car song. It's kind of like cliche, but what was cool is my buddy Julian. They go by Of the Other Time. They're actually a trained jazz violinist. They got accepted to Juilliard back in the day, which is like the best school in the West Coast of the United States to get accepted to.
Oh yeah.
But they decided to become a programmer instead because they were like, you know, music performance is hard to break into, even if you are accepted to like the top school of the top schools. So because of that, sometimes we'll collab together, and I'll be like, "Yo, man, just play some violin for me," and he's like, "Cool." And that one song we did together like did really good, and it was a feature-based song, and he had played violin on it, and people really liked it. So I want to do more feature-based stuff. I just haven't had the time. And then, is there any other genres? I think that's about. I listen to a lot of hip hop, vaporwave. Oh yeah, that's one more. I want to make a vaporwave alias, which is I'm gonna not make a new SoundCloud for this one, but I want to make a whole Vapor Velociraptor series of Groovy Kaiju. Like, one, the name is cool, but also two, sometimes I'll go through and I'll be like, the song is at like 130 BPM. Let me just make it 80 and see how it sounds. And I'm like, yo, this sounds good though. So I think it'd be cool to take some of my old songs, just slow them down with all the same chopping and stuff, but switch out the drums to be more Vaporwave and see how they do.
Yeah.
Under like a Vapor Velociraptor series or something.
Yeah. Sheer City asks, Hobo Johnson collab win.
I don't know. Tell them hit me up.
I don't know who Hobo Johnson is.
They do like really interesting type music where they kind of like, it's very sporadic, but it's hella good.
Oh, nice.
Groovy Codex collab, dude.
Yeah.
Whenever you need it, man, just hit me up. Just
That
send me
would
something.
be sick.
Hell yeah.
Codex,
I'm about it.
Molo collab, Codex Molo collab win? Because I know you do the whole interview thing, and I would love to join in on that.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
This is my resume, my
Molo
podcast.
Codex.
Now I wanna bump from the vine on a sub and cruise some downtown somewhere. I don't know what that means.
I think it's the Data Girl reference. Destination Spa is amazing. Yeah,
Oh.
it's an album all the time.
Ooh. Nice. I have to listen to more Data Girl. I used to say Data Girl, but I think it's Data Girl, right? Like that's how you say it?
No, she said it's either one.
It's
said it's either one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I should just say whatever. Awesome.
I
I'll
forgot,
be on
what
the
did
show
Enro
sometime.
say?
Oh yeah.
Enro, I was making a joke about how Data could be an acronym for something. And then I think
Yes.
Nathan said, damn, awesome tunes. Awesome, or something like that.
Oh my god, Enra was popping off last night with the jokes.
Yeah. He really
He
was.
Yeah.
He had me dying. That was great. Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Yes, Codex. Yes. I would love you to be on this, and I would love to be on that. On what you have, sight, sound. How do you say it?
British people. He's a confused there because like British people be like that girl.
That go. That's so
funny.
awesome.
If you're British, I'm sorry. We're dumb Americans.
Sight, sounds.
Oh damn, amazing tunes. Awesome. Yeah, that was it.
That go. That gal. Oh, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you want, I could just tell random stories about stuff.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so this is from my hometown. These are some spicy stories.
Spicy.
So, yeah, so this is a wild story, but I swear it's true. So, my buddies used to be in like a tagging crew, like a graffiti crew, and it was in my hometown, and I used to hang out with a lot of graffiti artists. So I'm very like visual art related, and I like to think that I'm really closely related to the kind of like street art graffiti scene, even though I don't do it myself. But I've just connected with a lot of people that do graffiti very well, and like they've been also another huge inspiration on me through their music and stuff like that. The kind of the graffiti scene and just places I've been, like even out in the Bay Area, I've had some like graffiti adjacent friends. So they had their whole graffiti crew, and there was another crew at my high school pretty much. And the thing is that the two crews took a different style. The crew my friends were in were very like tight knit, like you gotta like know everyone to get into it. Whereas the other crew was more about like recruitment numbers, so they were just recruiting anyone almost. So from that, they had a bunch of like new people that would come in and see another crew, didn't know the landscape of the things, and cross them out and be like, oh, we're better, ha ha ha. And then the leader of my buddy's crew was like, no, that's like fucked up, don't do that. And then would talk to the other leader like, yo, you need to tell your like toys, they used to call them, which are like new recruitments, people that don't know what they're doing and like usually aren't as artistic or as talented yet. Like, you need to tell your toys to stop doing that or else we're gonna have a problem. And he was like, yo, that's my bad, I didn't mean, I told them not to do that, but they've been doing it anyways, I'm gonna let them know. So he puts the word out there, but they kept doing it. So then I was like walking with him, and like he saw one of the other people do that, and he like kind of snapped and was like, nope, I'm over it. Started crossing them out and started like doing bigger pieces of them, and then it became like an actual rivalry, and like not a good thing. Like people started getting really heated with one another. But the thing that was like sketchy is the other crew that was doing all the big recruitment numbers that I wasn't associated with started becoming low-key a gang, and once they started doing like actual drive-bys and stuff, and it was like, oh, that's not very cool. But the thing from that is that that's like really sketchy is that my crew, you know, they were still in this beef. So while they were starting to turn from an art collective more to like an actual like gang, my buddies were still an art collective, but they had beef now. So they still had to settle that beef. And then I remember my buddy was like, hey man, so I gotta go like fight the other crew today. And I was like, dude, I think you should do that. And he was like, that's what I gotta do. And I was like, all right, man, you know, best of luck. And he was like, cool. And then I just remember thinking like, I hope my friend is like okay. But then the next day in art class, I saw him and I was like, oh dude, you're okay. What happened? And like he showed me a Facebook video, like along with a story. So the story goes is that, you know, he was walking on the way to the crew, like, and it was like my 3 friends versus like pretty much like 30 gang members at this point. And it was like maybe about 5 of my friends. And they were like, all right, well, we're going to get beat up. And at least we tried. So let's just walk over to the park. You know what I mean? But on the way, my hometown's a really weird place. Mm-hmm. There was like some people that were ex-Marine people that were like, yo, y'all about to go fight? And they're like, that's a random thing to ask someone. But yes, in fact, we are. And they're like, yo, let's go with you. And they're like these high school kids and like these grown men were like, yo, let's go be a part of this fight. And I swear this happened. I saw the Facebook. It's an actual video I saw. So then they had these really buff Navy dudes walking with my like high school friends to go do this fight. And while they're organizing the fight of like who's going to fight who, pretty much someone just punches my buddy just from their crew like, man, fuck this. Punches the guy. And then he gets like kind of like stumbles back. And then like just an all out brawl ensues. And then since they had these 2 buff Navy dudes, they just started like one-shotting all the other guys. Just like, you know, my friends were with the Navy dudes. Navy dudes just started one-shotting all these kids pretty much, even though they're grown men. Pretty messed up. But just one-shotting all of them. Just like boom, boom, boom. And then from that, my buddies were like, cool, I could pick off the easier ones. So then my buddies were actually getting some good punches in, beating up some of the guys that like maybe weren't as like buff or strong, while the Navy dudes were just like fucking up all these kids essentially. So as the other crew realized, hey, we're losing, what we're going to do is get into our like Ford F-150s our dad gave us and try to run people over like, you know, you would do in a normal street fight in high school. One of them runs in the car, starts trying to start it, but you know, they're like nervous, like their hands are shaking, so they're having a hard time. When the Navy dude sees this, walks up to the car, I swear I saw this in the video, walks up to the car, punches the window once, it cracks, punches it again, it goes through the window and punches the guy in the face and knocks him out. And then someone else had to pull his friend out of the car, get into the car, and then drive away as fast as they could. And then my friends won. And I was like, huh, that's a wild story. I'm glad you guys are okay.
No, wild. You were there?
Yeah. No, I was there. I watched the Facebook video afterwards, though. I was like, hey, I'm not that associated where I'm gonna like also join this fight. So yeah.
Well, still, that's like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did something.
It was. Yeah, I'm glad they came back safe, but it was an interesting story nonetheless.
Oh yeah, I'm glad they came back safe. Did anyone get too hurt where they had to go to the hospital, or? I
mean, none of my friends did.
So that's good.
Yeah.
All that matters. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I would not want to be involved in that.
Yeah. I want to be involved. So yeah, my hometown is like, it's getting real bad out there. I think, you know how like people are like, oh, you're from Compton, you're like super hard. I think what happened is that my hometown was like bad, but now it's getting really bad. And I think by the time I have kids, my kids are gonna be like, yo, you're from there? And I'm like, yeah. Even though I didn't get like the worst parts of it. Like Moreno Valley, Riverside. It's like called the Inland Empire. It's like a Game of Thrones episode, but like it's an actual place.
Wow,
it's
and
pretty
that's
messed up.
Like in California, SoCal?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's about like 2 hours away from LA. It's like in between Palm Springs and like LA, like right in the middle.
Oh wow.
It's just dry. Yeah. And the rumor goes that like pretty much LA had a huge crackdown on like gangs and violence and stuff back in the 90s. And they did this thing where it's like, hey, look, if we identify that you are like associated with like any crime in the city, you have to move X miles away from the city. And like my hometown is like the perfect, like you have to move 100 miles away. My hometown is like 100 miles away. So, you know what I mean? So it was like, started off as like this small army town, but then got all the LA rejects essentially. And now it's becoming like this melting pot of like people doing nefarious things.
Oh, Jesus.
But I love it. It's a cool place. Yeah.
So Shiro,
I definitely like.
Oh wait, no, go on.
Let me talk about music.
He wants to. Well, Groovy wants to. I mean, not Groovy. Sorry. Shiro City wants to know, Groovy, how did you start working with PPR?
Oh yeah, totally. So back to normal life.
Back to.
So I started working with PPR because when I was doing Groovy Godzilla back in 2014, I was playing a lot of house shows and open mics and stuff, but everyone was still like, well, "What is this vaporwave thing?" So like I mentioned that ska band. So my buddy's band, whenever they needed like an opener, or just someone to like watch people came in to play a set and stuff, they'd always hit me up like, "Yo man, do you want to open?" So I used to play a bunch of shows and stuff, and like no one would ever come out to see me because it was still so niche, and like just you couldn't really run a show out there. And there was like this kind of shitty moment I had where like one of the local show promoters in Long Beach like found me through Bandcamp, and they were a big Young Bay fan, and they tried like putting on some shows, but like again they were like, "Oh, the show is for you," but they put me more as an opener because like they just need someone to fill the spots, even though they made it seem like I was on the bill. And still then like Vaporwave was so small that it just didn't work at the time. So it's kind of like, oh, it is what it is. And like it was very disappointing, I guess. It kind of like made me think Vaporwave was smaller than it was. So when nowadays rolled around, I was still like, shows don't work and stuff. I've tried it in the past. I didn't think it could explode so much in like 3 years. Like it never would have guessed it would be like, oh yeah, you can just run a festival in LA for Vaporwave. And like back then I was like, there's no way it could have worked. Something changed. I still haven't figured out what exactly changed, but it just flipped a switch almost. So from that, I was going through Reddit on Future Funk and Vaporwave, and then I saw, oh snap, there's a local Vaporwave show in like Orange County that's like 20 minutes away from me. No fucking way. This show is probably gonna bomb. I gotta go check it out. You know what I mean? Not because I was like, oh, this is gonna be whack, but just because I was like, I've tried it before, it just didn't work, and like so on and so forth. And that was Virtual Memory. That was the first Virtual Memory, and I didn't go because I saw the flyer 30 minutes before, but I was like, I gotta help out with this because either it's like gonna bomb or like I gotta help them out because I would love to be a part of something bigger in Vapor. I've tried to, but just there was no avenue for me. So now I'm like, oh, there's someone else in SoCal that's like trying to make this happen. Let me at least hit him up. So I DM'd Alex on Twitter, like Pacific Plaza account. I was like, hey, I saw you threw a show in Orange County. Like, can I play one of them? And they were like, holy fucking shit, you're Groovy Godzilla. Of course you can. You can play the next one. And I was like, hey, nice. So then from that, I met Alex and Data Girl and all them in person for the first time. And then they were like, oh my God, you're like really Groovy Godzilla. I'm like, yes, I am. And they were like, holy shit. And so through that, just from Virtual Memory is how I got involved, was because I asked to play if I could play, and they were like, yeah, you're Groovy Godzilla. Of course you could play, especially since you're like 30 minutes away. Like, just come drive over. You can play whenever. I was like, cool.
That's
So
awesome.
So yeah, it was a really nice experience. And then now we're like all super close friends, and I'm like, yo, like, what's good, man? How you doing?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah.
Alex is awesome. He's such a sweet guy. I had the pleasure of talking to him. Last night was like the first time I ever even heard Data Girl's voice.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. That was
They're
awesome.
both like people.
Yeah.
They have a lot of empathy, which I really respect about them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how I got involved. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Actually, there is one other piece about that. Now that I think about it. So my buddy that got me into like performance cars and stuff, we have our own little crew there, and it's like my buddies Ryan, Joe, and then Josh is the one that's in the performance cars, and our other buddy K-Dog, his name's Kenny, but we call him K-Dog. So it was like maybe midnight. We used to do the thing before COVID where we'd get Denny's every Tuesday night because it's cheap, and like Denny's isn't going to tell you to like shut up if you're just like fucking around. The Denny's doesn't care. So we would just go to Denny's every night and just hang out, or on Tuesday nights. And then so we drove back to his place after like I just recently got the car and stuff, and he was like, yo man, your music stuff, dude, like you are pulling some big numbers. You need to focus on music again. And I was like, dude, like no, like I know it's 1 million views, but St. Pepsi gets about 1 million views and stuff like that, and like they're not like Taylor Swift numbers or anything. Like you can't really do anything with that. And like no, you need to focus on music. People really like this stuff. And I was like, dude, no, like you're doing way better than the programming thing. Like, music's something I do for fun, but it's just not working out. And they're like, dude, shut the fuck up. You need to work on more music. Like, you need to. You don't realize how good your stuff is. And I was like, no, you're just gassing me up. They're like, no, you need to work on music. So because they kept, and they did this for 4 hours, where I was just like, no, and it was like, no, you need to do this. It literally was 4 a.m. and I was like, shit, I have work tomorrow. So literally that next day, I saw the virtual memory poster because my friends had talked to me for 4 hours about how I need to focus more on music. I sent Alex that message. Otherwise, I probably would have just ignored it. And I'm like, oh, I'll go to the next one. But I was so proactive about it because Alex, my friends had pushed me so hard to start being more serious about my music again. So yeah. So yeah, that's the other part of why I got involved, because some close friends of mine were like, you need to get involved with people. You don't realize how cool you are. And I was like, no, I'm not that, yeah.
I'm so glad, and I'm gonna, if I ever meet your friends, I'm gonna shake their hands and be like, thank you. Thank you for pushing Groovy.
Yeah, I'll tell them you said that, because they'll be super stoked.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And Data Girl is with us today.
Data Girl! Data Girl! That's the homie.
Thank you for showing up. Thank you.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I saw another question. Will asked, or iClick asked, what's my favorite skate trick? I don't know. If I had to guess though, as of recently, maybe Nollie Inward Heel. Because it's like one of those tricks that's like not easy to do, but like it's one of the, I don't know, it's kind of like that's like I press triangle on a controller. It's like so muscle memory now that I'm just like, yeah, like Nollie Inward Heel. And they always look cool. Like that's always like instant like, oh, points at the skate park. So probably Nollie Inward Heel. Yeah.
Cool. What's your favorite, what is it called? Those little tiny skateboard?
Oh, tech deck.
Yeah, tech deck. So, what's your favorite tech deck trick? Do you want?
Oh,
do you
yeah,
have it? Could you show it to us?
I can go grab it. I don't know if I can show it on camera though, just because my camera over Discord might be like super wavy. But what's it called? What would be mine? Probably just kickflip. I can do those without even looking. So what's funny is I work from home now, and I purposely set up my camera so you can only see like my chest up. And the whole time, whenever I'm in meetings, I'm just playing with the tech deck. And until they call my name, I'm like, oh yeah, we should do that. Cool. I mute myself again and start playing with tech decks, but they can't tell. I love it.
Oh my God.
If one of my coworkers sees this, I'm sorry. But I swear I'm doing a good job. They tell me I do a good job, so it hasn't been a problem yet.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't been fired yet, so.
Exactly. So
you're good.
I'm doing good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I would do it too if I were in the same situation.
Working from home, playing with tech deck.
Yeah, I want to learn how to do that. Like, it looks like a lot of fun, and like I don't know. Do you get like a satisfaction from like playing with a tech deck, like a fidget spinner? Because they say that's like great for, kind of I don't know, relaxing or something.
Yeah, I think it's I think I do get like it's less of a. I mean, it is fun. Like I used to go, actually, my same buddy Ryan that I mentioned earlier that was like, you need to do more music. They're like a professional tech decker now, so we were going to tournaments and stuff, and I would just like go with him to tournaments, and he would like win everyone. So we would like hang out a lot and play with tech decks all the time before COVID and all that. But for work wise, I think it's good because like I'll be like working on something and I'll like kind of be stuck on a problem, and I'll play with my tech deck again, and you get to come back with this new perspective. So it's like kind of like when you go into like a maze, sometimes you have to like backtrack a little bit and start from the beginning again to like figure it out. So it's like one of those things where it helps me like I think solve problems by just forcing myself to take a break and reapproach it.
So your company should probably sponsor your tech deck.
Yes, they should.
If they want better productivity, so
yeah, I'll send them this podcast and be like, yep.
Yeah, Dan Soka's like, Groovy, your boss is in the chat.
That'd be funny. My boss is pretty chill. I think he'd be okay with it if he found out. He'd be like, okay. Last meeting you had, you're like, dude, you're killing it. So I'd be surprised if he was like, nope, tech deck's gotta go.
You're getting a promotion to vice president of kickflips. Says Aggro.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Oh, and
I saw another question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It was good though. Oh, Chief asked what my favorite skateboard brands are. So I'm a bit of a. This is another funny story. But I'm a little bit of a old skateboarder now. That's weird. Is that like skateboarding is a lot of kids do it, And like as you get older, like you kind of just like fall off. Like you get start to see all your old skate buddies like become adults, I guess, where they like go into work or they whatever reason why they become an adult and stop skating or whatever. So I realized I was getting old, which is I'm not old at all, but I was getting older than I felt when there was this one kid that like was like buying bearings at the skate shop, and it was at a Vans, and he was just like, oh, I want to buy some bearings. I don't know which one to buy. And the guy that worked at Vans, he doesn't know anything about skateboarding. He works at Vans. He's like, I know shoes. And he was like, oh, well, I heard these ones are kind of good. And I was like, hold up. Obviously, you don't know what you're talking about. Look, kid, I've been skateboarding for 8 years. You want to get Reds because I've been skating these bearings for 6 years, man. Let me tell you, these are the ones. They're reliable. They're fast. They don't pop that often. Even when they do, they're only $20. It's the best bang for your buck. He looked at me and just walked away. Didn't even consider my opinion at all. And I was like, oh my God. I'm the old guy that was like, well, listen here, Shani, I've been doing this for 25 years. Let me just... I was like, oh my God. So from that, my favorite brand of bearings is Red's bearings, which are made by Bones. I'm a Bones wheels type guy because like my whole skate crew back in my hometown was like Bones till we die. My favorite board brand was Cliché, but they went under, and they were a European skateboard company that was more technical focused, which is why they're a big favorite of mine. But nowadays, it's interesting. I kind of want to say Toy Machine, just because their Toy Machine is like very based in Long Beach, and I live in Long Beach, so like that Long Beach pride maybe, and just their boards are good. And then for trucks, I'm always been a Ventures guy. It's like the first trucks I've had. They're heavy, but if you get Venture Hollows, they're a lot lighter. But for some reason, it's like whenever you grind with Ventures, like they accelerate. Like they don't like slow you down. They like go a little faster. So yeah, and that's my favorite skate brands. We'll go through some more. Nice. I mean, you have questions? I hope I don't like let the chat take over.
Well, there's Dan Soko. I don't know if this is whenever Dan Soko chats, I don't know if I should take him seriously or not, but he has a question. Groovy, serious question. Do you wear a helmet when skating? Why or why not? Okay. Serious question, actually.
Yeah, so I don't wear a helmet just because I grew up street skating, and street skating doesn't usually wear helmets. If I did more vert, I probably would, because like when you start skating 8-foot ramps, it's like, dude, it's like not even, it's not cute to like be like, I don't need to wear a helmet, I'm so hardcore. It's like once you skate 8-foot ramps, like, dude, you just wear a helmet. At that point, it's just like you're being ridiculous if you don't wear a helmet.
Yeah.
That being said, yeah.
If I skated, I would do it for the fashion. I'd be like, yeah, no helmet because it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then that being said, though, the hair does help. There's been a lot of times where I like was gonna hit my head, and I did, but the hair made it a lot softer. Especially as I started like doing ponytails and my hair got longer, I would like fall back and hit my head, and I was like, oh, I just take a little nap on my pillow. Wouldn't fall, actually like get knocked out, but it was like, okay, take a little. Felt like I fell on a pillow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your hair, by the way, is fucking amazing, and I love.
Thank you.
Like when I feel like your hair is like an extension of like your like expression when you're in those freaking live stream shows and you're head banging and your hair's going everywhere, and I'm just like, hell yeah, woo, groovy. Yeah. That's
so
awesome.
one thing it actually makes playing live harder. So I could put my hair up when I play live, but it just I felt like it looked cool. So, and plus Dan Soko gets to count my hair flips whenever I play live, so I'm like, I gotta keep my hair down. It looks cool, and how else is Dan Soko gonna watch the show if he can't count the hair flips?
He would literally die. He can't live without doing that,
Yeah.
Poor Dan Soko. Totally. That's his lifeline.
Totally. But yeah.
Beauty is pain, Groovy.
It really is. Also, I've been growing my hair for like over a decade. Which is wild.
Wow, so you haven't gotten a haircut
in 10 years now.
10 years?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Thank you, Min.
So it started getting so long where sometimes I'll trim off the tips if the tips get all fucked up. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, some of this hair is like 10 years old, which is like kind of gross, but it's dreadlocks, what do you expect?
Yeah. Oh my god. You're talking to I want to be a hairdresser, and like that's a no-no. Oh my
That's
goodness, 10 years. I mean, it looks wonderful. So you
Thank
can
you. I'm glad. Yeah, I
do-
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Share
if you don't
goals.
mind, I thought Agro asked, how hard was it to emulate Uni? So we had recently a virtual memory where
yes.
we did like a Halloween thing where we pretended to be another person in the Vaporwave scene. And I chose to be Uniwa. And personally, I don't think I had a hard time emulating Uni, just because from my perspective, Uniwa very much embodies that LA low-end beat culture from like low-end theory kind of brought up. And like I have a lot of friends that were a part of that scene, as well as I've gone to a lot of low-end theories myself. So I've seen it, I've been in the culture and stuff. So since I see Uni kind of embodies that for me it was just like, oh cool, I just gotta pretend like I'm playing at low-end theory just with Uniwa's glasses on. And I think it came across really well. And people were like, dude, you're Groovy Wa. Like, you did it. So I'm pretty stoked.
So Groovy Wa collab win.
Actually, yeah, we were gonna work on something. I sent them over some like chord progressions because, like I mentioned, I've done Uniwa does a lot of like self-produced as well as sampled stuff, and they're like, let's do something self-produced. So I sent them a chord progression, but I think it was too little of a starting point. But I just haven't heard back from them yet. But they're also working on like a ton of different stuff, so we'll see. But yeah, it's supposed to be happening, TLDR, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
And Tokyo, thanks Tokyo. I'm glad you like my hair, dude. I love your hair too. Can we also appreciate Tokyo Wanderer? I think also has amazing hair in the scene.
Yes.
Tokyo
Can we
Wanderer
just
has some
also
amazing
just,
hair.
like appreciate Tokyo Wanderer?
Yeah.
I met him in the Future Funk server. I had no idea who he was, and I've kind of fallen in love with his music. And like, dude is a legend. Super nice. I praise that guy. He's cool.
Yeah,
Fucking
Tokyo
love
is amazing.
Tokyo.
One of my favorite of the Future Funk scene right now.
Hell yeah.
Both in music and in personality.
Yes. Agree.
Yeah. And their live shows are cool too. I love that he just brings up the bass. It's like, and I'm like,
yeah.
So dope.
Yeah, and I mean, like, so he's in metal bands, and he like kind of brings that to his music and
exactly.
Future Funk, and that's so unique and so cool. Tokyo, I would love to have you on the show, please.
No, let's get Tokyo on the Molo podcast.
Please.
Let's go.
That would be an honor. Yeah. So like Groovy Wanderer collab.
Oh yeah, why haven't I
that.
brought that up yet? That's such a good point. Yes.
Yeah, that would be so sick.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna message them right after this actually.
Yeah. Tokyo.
Right after this.
You better be down for this. Like, this is going on my YouTube channel, and it's gonna be, basically, you have to do it now. That's what I'm trying to say.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I just saw another chat question. Also, do you mind me answering chat questions?
No,
hope it's fine. I'm getting so hyped right now.
This is my podcast is like, you do what you want. It's about you, but it's also about the people in chat.
Dope.
That's why it's live.
For sure.
You guys are part of the show.
Dope. Well, Shiro City asks, who is the most underrated future funk artist? And I'm glad you asked, because I think it is Blunt Side. Super random, but they released a few albums on Business Casual back in 2015, and just people don't talk about them. But he made, like, they don't sound like Tupperwave, but I get the same vibes from him, in which it's like the music itself isn't the music itself is like really well produced, but also just like, it's not like super complex choppy or anything, or it's not like ridiculously interesting drums. It's just good. It just makes you feel so good, and it's just like the vibes on it are just like amazing.
Yeah, I would
so
say...
yeah, if you check out Blunt Side, the Future EP is like insanely. I listen to that stuff all the time.
I've never even heard of them, so I would say they are underrated.
Underrated. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you're gonna have to send me their music.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if anyone can link them in the chat if they know who they are, that would be nice. Just be really sweet.
Yeah. Emerald
Ooh.
asks, "How am I so handsome and talented?" I don't know, dude. I got it from my mom and my dad, I guess. If I
Yeah,
can claim to
gotta
be handsome and talented.
Yes, you can. Shout out to the moms and dads out there.
Yeah, shout out to moms and dads.
Yeah.
But I also want to answer Dan Soko. He asked me if I made my own original compositions, which direction would you stylistically go? I've made my own compositions before, like entirely. Like my new Visceral album has a few songs that are just like completely self-produced. The reason why I kind of didn't do it as much is one, because I didn't really learn a lot of good music theory until I started making future bass, and that was just like major ninth chord everything, and then or major seventh chord everything, whatever the right music term is. And once I learned that, I was like, cool, I could just major seventh chord everything in lo-fi hip hop too, and it'll probably work. And it did. So some of my visceral stuff is completely self-produced. All the piano is done by me, and it sounds good, which I'm like, damn, I didn't know I could do that. So that, and then the Marquise Turner stuff is like all the music is done by me, like all the chord progressions and like melodies and stuff. So and I've also done video game albums before. Like I've made some video games, made albums for them, made video game music. So just whatever. I want to start self-producing more Groovy Godzilla stuff or Groovy Kaiju stuff, because I've kind of had some ideas on like maybe where I can pull some bass lines and add my own piano on top. And then I'll be honest too, I've been trying to make like my own all the way through self-produced like disco. Like a band that I like is Tuxedo. They're like through Stone's Throw. Mayor Hawthorne is like the lead singer on it, but they're like pretty much, if you just sped up any of their songs, they'd instantly be future funk. And I've been looking a lot into how to make actual funk. I just can't figure it out. I just have a hard time. The reason being is not because I am incapable of like the music side, but just more that like, you know, some of the sounds of those like old analog synths, they're really hard to replicate in VSTs. So just kind of the barrier for entry is really high. And also a mix of like, you know, just trying to understand how those bass lines work and stuff. I'm sure if I spent like a good month just like in this closet, just like working on it, I could figure it out. But like the few like inspirations I get where I'm like, I'll play with it for like a good hour or two, nothing comes out that I'm like happy with. So over time, I'm sure it'll come eventually. But now that I'm clearing samples, I will admit probably going to focus more on clearing samples and getting more of a name there instead of like moving more self-produced in the meantime.
How many instruments do you know how to play?
Honestly, I'm not like a big instrument player. That being said, like I can play guitar, but not like blah, 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 blah. Like I'm decent at a bunch of different instruments, but like nothing like I'm like, oh yeah, I could like roll up to the club and just like, you know, kill it. Like whatever. But I could play guitar, I could play bass. I'm learning piano, and I'm actually like to the point with piano where I'm like satisfied. Like I can play all my favorite Kingdom Hearts songs. I could play a little bit of D'Angelo on piano, you know. Just,
ooh, nice. I love your Kingdom Hearts. Well, Chief Leaf made a Kingdom Hearts music video for you that just came out too. That was so sick. I was like, yeah, I was like really happy with
Chief of
Chief Leaf is fucking sick. That was
Chief, if you're here, I just want you to know that was my fan fiction, and that you totally made it for me. You totally made my like that like, what if I got to make the next Kingdom Hearts theme song? The video was perfect, and I was like, yes, this is my fan fiction. Chief made it.
Sick.
So, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're totally fine. Since we're kind of getting to the end, I want to...
Oh, we are?
Yeah, we have like a little over 10 minutes left. Like 11 minutes left. I would love for you to like promote whatever you want to promote.
Ooh,
like,
yeah, for sure.
Upcoming shows or...
Yeah. So I think the next one is Virtual Memory. I mean, I just do that every month. So come through Virtual Memory. It's a lot of fun. I feel like I think what we're going to start doing now going forward is doing more of the green screen style sets and playing with that format more rather than just all Hell Breaks Loose visuals, which I love, by the way. I think maybe we'll do a mixture of both, but I think I'm hoping that like I like being in the sets, and I think the people who watch like that as well. I'm hoping I can make myself really, or at least smaller, to give, like, I want to have both at the same time, if that makes sense, because I really like all Hell Breaks Loose visuals. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we'll probably start using Rambly more again. I'm hoping in the future we'll probably start experimenting with the visuals a little bit more, so that way we can express ourselves as the artist, but then also still keep room for Tyler's work as well, or all Hell Breaks Loose So come to virtual memory, I think it's going to keep improving, keep getting better. In terms of like other external third-party shows, I don't think I have any on the radar quite. Oh wait, no, there is not a new, but there's a Twitch channel called The Only Game Show, and what they do is they get Twitch streamers and they like do a trivia night with them, and the person that runs it is a big fan of mine, and now we're like friends, and I'm like, dude, like what's up? And they're like, hey, can I like do an intro one time with like you playing a set before the trivia starts? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I record a set for them. So once I get more details on like the date and stuff, I'll probably start spreading that out. So that's probably my next external show, is which, you know, working with them to like help them out with their show, and like vice versa. So I'm really excited about that. And then Groovy Kaiju, we have the Still Groovy vinyl coming. That's gonna be exciting. We have to send it back to the plant to get some things figured out. Excited for that. And then we have the remaster cassette. I know I've been teasing it since I've been saying, oh, it's gonna come out in September. Then I said October. No, it's like November. I promise you it's coming. All the files are ready. We just gotta send it off and like figure out the right timeline to release it. But the remastered album is the next thing. And then probably after Still Groovy vinyl and the remaster cassette, I've been releasing singles. I've been trying to do like the 4 to 6 month release cycle that you're supposed to do as a Spotify artist. So those will eventually become an album. So whatever those singles come back together, once they like start to form an idea and I can fill in those whole, like, you know, kind of the way I'll build albums, I'll build a bunch of singles. And then I'm like, okay, they all express this approximate idea. Let me fill in the holes to make that a complete idea. So once I have enough singles out, I'll probably like wrap them up into an album by putting in some like songs that like wrap it into a whole idea. So yeah. And then for Visceral stuff, since we talked about it there, I am so hyped for the next Visceral album. I think it's going to be like my magnum opus of Visceral stuff because of the, you know, that YouTube lo-fi mix went so viral. Another thing is Lullabies, which is the song I made. There's a big story behind that, but the TLDR of it is that pretty much the song got stolen off of SoundCloud and re-uploaded to Spotify, and it got like 2 million views. So the guy like pretty much like stole a ton of like put it under their name and stole a bunch of money and like attention from the song under their name. And I had to like argue with Spotify for like 5 months. It was a horrible experience, but eventually they were like, fine, you can have the song back under your name. You know, you can't have any of the old revenue because we already paid them out, and that sucks for you, but we'll replaylist you and all that. Yeah, it was pretty lame, but they were like, we'll replaylist you, after I begged them to and told them like, hey, like what the heck. They replaylisted me and all that, and since then it's gained another 6 million views or plays on Spotify. So in the end, I think it's very bittersweet, but it worked out. So there's a huge amount of momentum behind my Visceral stuff right now. And the thing I'm worried about is that because lo-fi hip-hop is so much more passive, and like, you know, your fans aren't like, yo, like let me, you know, X, Y, and Z, like they just kind of like throw it on like, oh, this is nice. There's a lot of momentum behind it, and I'm hoping I don't drop the ball on it. So this next Visceral album, I was like, look, this has to be like the lo-fi album to end lo-fi albums for me, because I have all this momentum right now. So I put a lot of time, like effort, and honestly like money too. I like bought a lot of sample packs and samples to make sure it's all completely cleared, so that way when it comes out, like I can do all the momentum I have, like doesn't get lost because I'm like, oh, I can't clear that sample or whatever. Like I put all my ducks in order because I'm like, this could be the one. So that next album, let me tell you, it's dope. It's just, yeah. And the thing that I'm stoked on it too is that with all of the current events and stuff like that, and me traveling a lot, I've kind of started to question like where home is. You know what I mean? Like where do I feel like is home? So I'm gonna call the album home because it has so many like very reflective type vibes I get from it, as well as like stuff of like, you know, I don't know, just a lot of elements of feeling at home. That's what I think the album represents. So that'll come out, and then I don't know if it'll come to physical, but I think the Spotify launch hopefully will be like something like, oh shit, you know what I mean? So Visceral has some stuff in the pipeline, and that's gonna come out in January, for sure, because I already like have it done. I already put the date on it on my calendar and stuff. And since I'm not waiting on a physical,
I feel like everything you make should be physical, because I would love that.
Yeah.
Personally.
So the thing is about physicals is that
it's expensive.
so the reason, not even that, it's just even the reason why I never did physical Groovy Godzilla stuff was like, one, because back in those days, like it was hard to sell 50 Future Funk cassettes. Now it's like, oh yeah, you just throw them up and like pop, and they're done. You know what I mean? Like they like instantly sell out. It's if you have like, if you're making like music that's known in the scene. For lo-fi stuff, like I said, it's more passive, so I don't know how it's gonna perform. I think honestly it might just be me not being confident enough in my own music of why I haven't done as much physicals, which is like kind of embarrassing to say, or maybe I'm like hoping not seem like, oh, look at me, I'm so humble, but that is like a true reason behind it. Is I'm like, I don't know if it would actually sell, who would actually want it, so on and so forth.
People would
But-
want it.
Yeah,
You were just
and
telling
now
me how like people like listen to your music and like when you met Pacific Plaza, he was like, "Oh hell yeah, Groovy! You need more confidence. People are gonna fucking buy it. I'm gonna buy it. I know everyone probably in this chat would probably buy it, dude.
Yeah.
You're sick. Okay.
Thank you.
You can't see me
Appreciate
right
it, yeah.
now unless you're looking at the Twitch thing, but I'm like, you're sick.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, I will admit that was now that I've like, you know, had a lot of friends that like you and the friends that like really hyped me up in Pacific Plaza now, I've been feeling a lot more confident on like my numbers and the stuff that I'm doing. That being said though, there is still an element of like the work that goes into it. The money side, because I'll be honest, because I'm like doing a day job of like programming, I'm not too worried about the money side of it. Like I don't mind fronting some of it because it's something I get a lot of enjoyment and it helps me get on with my life doing music. So I don't mind putting like money into my music if it means that it's going to make me happy and like get through the day. You know what I mean? So the money, like ordering the cassettes and all, I don't mind. It's just also the work behind it, because there is a lot of time that goes into like printing the labels and making sure the shipping goes out right. And what if one of the cassettes break in shipping? Then it's like, you have to run essentially a label, and you know that's another part. That's time that's going to take away from me making music that I'm now doing label stuff when really I just want to make music. So that's why I think the relationship I have with Alex or just Pacific Plaza in general is so great, because you know we can kind of lean on each other for the parts that maybe we don't have the time to do or we don't feel like doing. You know what I mean? So
It's like
yeah, like Alex and exactly Alex and I both as like, oh yeah, go for it, my bad.
Yeah, it's like you, because he runs a label, Pacific Plaza, and you're the artist, and you guys have to also connect, which you have done. So it's like a beautiful love story of like, and you work together. I don't know. That's how.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
Put it. I'm a romantic, so that's why I put it like that.
Yeah, no, you're completely correct though. And I want to just say, as both as like friends, as in like, hey, how are you doing today? Or like, yo, look at this meme. Like, you know, we have a relationship as that, but also on like the business side of it, it's like great. Like, you know, we just cut everything 50-50. And I'm like, look, dude, like I wouldn't have printed physicals anyway. So if you're down to like put in the risk that goes involved and stuff like that, I would be more than happy to like let you do that, and we can figure things out and stuff like that. And all the samples are cleared, so I know for sure, like if anyone ever gives you any bullshit, like I got the paperwork to back us up, so like don't worry about it. So you know, we have that like good business thing going as well as friends. And so I've actually, one thing I pitched to Alex was like, hey, look, you know, you run a label, you know better on like what's gonna sell and what's not. I have this visceral thing coming up, there's a shit ton of momentum behind it. Do you want to print cassettes for it? And they're like, oh, let me listen to it and we'll figure it out. It's not something Pacific Plaza normally does, which I wouldn't blame him if he was like, no, you know, I kind of don't want to get into that, which would be super cool. But if maybe someone, if they do decide not to, which is completely okay, if someone else that did lo-fi stuff wanted to approach me about it, I'd probably say yeah. But if, you know, maybe if the deal was right and stuff like that, if they weren't, because I've had some friends that do lo-fi, and my buddy Astro Black, that's told me some horror stories of like stuff in that scene, because it makes such big numbers, but like no one really knows what's going on, because it's like, where are these numbers coming from? Because there's no like passionate fan base really. It gets real funny. So you know, pretty much a visceral might come to physical either through Pacific Plaza if like, you know, we decide that's, or Alex decides, or just us in general as the team decide it's like a good idea, or maybe through somewhere else, or maybe one day I'll just be like, you know what, I'll be honest, my visceral stuff's doing kind of good. Maybe one day I'll decide that like maybe I can do both, because there's a lot of people that really like my music, and I feel bad when I don't have time to like, I want to hear new music, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm writing code. And it's not that I don't like writing code, I like them both equally. But I do think it would be maybe fun if one day I could have like, hey, look, Monday, Wednesdays I work on music, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday I work on code. And if I could set up that relationship in my career, I think that would be fucking cool. You know what I mean? So if that ever were to come about, then yeah, if I had a whole day to like print labels and stuff, yeah, I would definitely do it if people really wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more, it comes into like general, where's my life going type decisions where, yeah, there's so many angles to it. That was a whole tangent, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just want to repeat what Chief Elif said. He's like, this next album better make me study for the rest of the year, and I don't go to school anymore.
Dude, I think it is. Ooh, you can study to it. Let me tell you, you can study. You can study. And then some of the songs on there too, I'm like so stoked on. Like, there's this one song I haven't released yet called "Remember the Time," and it's just it's dope. It's like this doo doo doo. I can't sing it over my mouth, but pretty much from doing Groovy Godzilla and stuff, I was like, it's not traditional and lo-fi, but I chopped it up like insane because it's so like swung out. I was like, this doesn't sound good on 4/4 time. Chopped it up and like made it like it's so bouncy, even though it's a lo-fi beat. So it's like you're chilling, but you're bouncing at the same time. It's like, yeah. I don't know how to describe it. It like makes me. I'm stoked on that song.
Hell yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it is 10 my time.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
I'm gonna promote my next stream real
Please
quick
do.
before we get off. I'm doing an interview with Pop Culture next week, so that's gonna be sick. Sam is awesome. He makes music, and I can't wait to like talk to him. And I hope you guys are there and support him, which is kind of supporting me.
Yeah.
Well, I love you guys, and thank you so much, Groovy Kaiju. Like, you don't understand.
Thank you
like,
so much.
No, like, thank you for joining me. This was like the best fucking podcast.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may, thank you. One other thing about me is I was always like, I wish someday someone would interview me. And here we are. Let's go.
Here we are. Let's go. Woo! Thank you.
Hell yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, that's it. That's it. That's the end.
Cool.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Love you.
Yeah, and thank you everyone in the chat. I appreciate all of y'all. Y'all are so awesome. All of you are my friends too, so you guys are just awesome. Thanks for being here. I love all y'all.
All right. Happy Halloween. Do you want to?
Happy Halloween.
Awesome. Happy Halloween. That was it.
Happy Halloween. Okay, cool.
All right.
Dope.